The Phantom Pain is expected to be the last entry in the grand spy epic that is the Metal Gear series. With a history of boundless creativity and bar-raising production values, expectations for the grand finale would be hard to meet. Yet somehow, Hideo Kojima and his team have pulled it off. Changing the game's subtitle from Tactical Espionage Action to Tactical Espionage Operations shows an ambition to tackle stealth gameplay in an open-world environment. On making first impressions, this direction seemed misguided. The world is mostly a massive empty environment with isolated enemy bases dotting the map. This is a pervasive problem in open-world games where the desire to make the largest environments tends to leave developers unable to make anything worth doing in those environments. Despite containing nearly barren stretches of terrain, the world of MGS5 subtly dismantles this inherent flaw. The world is a living and functioning sandbox, with animals roaming the lands while soldiers endlessly patrol dirt roads, but the land is not used for mere beautification. The open world is more than a setting. It is a vital gameplay tool. It serves the needs of a stealth game. It provides an area for the player to scout, execute a plan, and escape. A standard mission will focus on a section of the map. Usually this area will consist of an empty expanse surrounding an enemy base. From this expanse, the player is encouraged to use binoculars to mark enemies, vehicles, traps, and other obstacles. Based on this information, the player must then infiltrate the base in whatever way they determine would be best for the particular mission and the dangers they face ahead. Once they've accomplished the objective, they must then find their way out of the area. This central gameplay loop fully realizes the promise of stealth gameplay while offering the player flexibility in how they wish to play. It makes possible for a multitude of player-driven moments. I dare say you've not lived until you've attacked the Soviets while listening to David Bowie. This freedom and quantity of player choice is further driven by a staggering amount of unlockable weapons and gear. The amount of options allows the player to complete their tasks according to their playstyle, but it's all too easy to pick a loadout and stick with it throughout the entire game. While it does provide room for experimentation, it never explicitly encourages it. It does get repetitive as a consequence. At the very least, getting comfortable with the loadout doesn't rob the player of a sense of progression. There are decent amounts of upgrades for every item, which instills a sense of accomplishment and acts as an incentive to interact with Mother Base, the instrument from which these tools are obtained. To develop or upgrade better gear, the player must grow their mercenary company's offshore headquarters. This is done primarily by finding new recruits and assigning them to various jobs. The more recruits, the better the outcome. The actual management of this base is trivial, with a single button press automating the entire operation. However, it does feed back into the main stealth game in comical ways. The way the player is expected to recruit new soldiers is by knocking out enemies, tying a balloon to them, and whisking them away where they'll be convinced to join the player. This single mechanic makes the lackluster management simulation completely worth it. Even still, it's quite odd that instead of making an engaging side game for the Mother Base, the developers just slapped on an automate button so a player doesn't actually have to pay attention to it. This is where the developers decided to shove an obtrusive multiplayer mode in. As the player expands their Mother Base, other players can invade it to steal resources and soldiers. Once trespassed upon, the player has an opportunity to invade their assailant's base and take back what's rightfully theirs. But this just creates an endless circle of vengeance. The actual base invasions feel oppressively repetitive. With no control over the design of Mother Base, everyone's base ends up feeling the same, the only difference being how high the security is. Morally, the whole feature of messing with someone else's game or enacting vengeance just feels petty. While it doesn't excuse the mundane nature of the multiplayer mode, the pathetic nature of vengeance does fit comfortably into the larger themes of the Phantom Pain's narrative. After the events of Metal Gear Solid Ground Zeroes, Big Boss awakens from a coma to find the Militaire Sans Frontières, his first mercenary company, destroyed and scattered. He then builds a new mercenary company with forces directed at killing the guy who destroyed MSF. That's the basic plot anyway, but Metal Gear is never so straightforward. Newcomers to the series may find this to be one of the better places to start due to the simple nature of the plot. The majority of Metal Gear's infamously convoluted lore lies buried within a pile of collectible cassette tapes. In this way, there are two narrative frameworks in action. The overarching story of vengeance, where the cast of characters hunts down the bad guy, while learning that revenge is always a hollow victory and fails to bring back what they've lost. Then there's the cassette tape narrative, which covers a wide variety of themes, such as the use of language as a tool of imperialism, the formation of an all-powerful shadow group seeking to control the world, as well as the prevalence of parasites on human history. It's thought-provoking and crazy, just as Metal Gear fans would come to expect, but by being lost inside hundreds of optional tapes makes for a narrative plagued by pacing issues. Often, a completely senseless event will happen in a cutscene, only for sense to be made once the player listens to the appropriate tapes. They can be listened to at any time, such as driving or running long distances in the open world, but the story simply doesn't pack the same punch without the cinematic production values previous games in the series have relied upon. Furthermore, it's just awkward to be listening to a tape while doing a story mission having nothing to do with the tape. In fact, most missions feel detached from the narrative altogether. Many are simple contract missions playing off of the mercenary company scenario, with plot-furthering events few and far between. It's enjoyable, but it feels messy and disconnected. In this way, The Phantom Pain appears to be the most unique entry in the series. It's the complete opposite of its predecessors. Metal Gear games previously played poorly, with players battling forward for the strong narrative itself. Here, however, the game plays beautifully, with the narrative taking on the secondary position. While this is a great disappointment for longtime fans, the gameplay is so successful at accomplishing stealth gameplay in an open world that even the most jaded of players should have a great time regardless. Despite its issues, Metal Gear Solid 5: The Phantom Pain is an absolute triumph.